Hello indie game fans, this first trailer is pretty short, so let's get straight into the top 5 best new releases of the week. Snakebird Primer is the sequel to 2015's mind-bending Snakebird, and while it looks simple and pleasant based on the previous game, this should be one of the most challenging puzzle games in the market, so go check it out if you love these. The premise of Wraithslayer is pretty simple: defeat the Wraith, who has 3 forms, but the catch is that the attack patterns are procedurally generated, so it boils down to your skill at the game. Simple, effective visuals and controls, so this should be a cool little thing.
Like a shadow from dark clouds, Lord Carthor of Ixoros swept through the realm of Valtoria. Better known as Ixorians, Carthor's brutal warriors were the people's biggest fear, conquering lands and raiding and killing everything in sight. In fear of being invaded, many of the Valtorian lords switched sides and joined the monstrous Carthor. In an attempt to create a counterweight, some of the Western lords formed an alliance and confronted Carthor at the Battle of Becrin. The battle was fought between evenly matched armies, and to break the tie, Lord Varian, the ruler of Becrin, made his way all through the back line and challenged the mighty Carthor himself. The fighting stopped, and with anticipation the men watched every step Lord Varian took as if their lives depended on it. As he approached, he raised his sword sky high, and without any attempt to parry, Carthor was hit with a swing that was sure to kill even a giant. But as thunderous as the strike was, there was no thunder to be heard, and no blood to be seen. With terror in the soldiers' eyes, they all deeply listened for the clashing sound to sear through the masses, but the silence that followed was deafening. Lord Varian looked as if he had seen a ghost, and without realizing, he was pulled close by the seemingly unaffected Carthor. The shock was so great that Lord Varian did not notice the dagger. The men got a searing sight that day, one that would haunt them forever. With the army's morale completely devastated, there was no need to call for retreat. The troops had already begun to run. Commander Highmore, ruler of the Valtorian capital Vaskleon, opened his mouth to shout his command, but the words were soon interrupted as his throat was sealed by a black arrow. The battle was lost, and suddenly the sky appeared dark. And so seemed the future.
As someone who is always on the lookout for RTS games, BANNERMEN caught my eye since, perhaps most obviously, it has an aesthetic that at least has a passing resemblance to Age of Empires. However, this seems to be sticking to a nondescript medieval European setting, although there are some fantasy elements in the use of magic to unleash elemental powers. With a full campaign, perhaps essential for the indie RTS, this is one to check out next week. Devil Engine is a horizontal shoot 'em up featuring a kicking soundtrack, some good pixel art, and that all too familiar tale of a ship having to take on the entire armada. Flashy graphics and variety in enemies, weapons, and attack patterns look pretty impressive, so in a word, this should rock. Finally, Streets of Red Devil's Dare Deluxe finally comes to PC after releases on PS4 and Switch last year, and is a permadeath beat-em up with a sense of style. This is actually the reworked and revamped version of the 2014 game and has had some good reviews. Currency earned while playing can be spent on upgrades or used to revive yourself after death, but if you are unable to do so, that will be it for the run. So a good mix of risk and reward. The control scheme for combat is also supposed to be pretty unique, with the developers quoting Smash Brothers, and you might notice the likeness and cameo appearances of a few familiar faces.
Streets of Red.
For more upcoming indie game new releases, check out the previous video or watch my recommended playlist, and I will see you after the jump.